the night they learned to fear. The medical station orbited silently above the gas giant Karath. Its white corridors smelled of chemicals and old wounds. Soldiers from a dozen species lay in recovery beds, their bodies healing while their minds remained trapped in memories of war. Sergeant Vex sat alone near the observation window. His 6 limbs rested against the cold metal chair. His crystal blue eyes stared at nothing. The Drothian warrior had served 40 cycles in the Galactic Defense Corps. His gray-scaled skin showed scars that mapped every major conflict of the last 3 decades. He had fought against the Scorvian swarms, survived the plasma storms of Deltex Prime, and walked away from battles that claimed thousands of his brothers. But tonight he could not sleep. Tonight, memories of a different kind kept him awake. The young medic's question. A young Valorian medic named Kira approached with quiet steps. Her silver hair caught the starlight from the window. She carried a data pad but seemed more interested in the old soldier than her medical readings. "Sergeant Vex," she said softly, "your vitals show elevated stress. The doctors say you should rest." Vex made a sound like grinding stones. It was how Drothians laughed. "Rest requires peace, young one. Some of us have seen things that make peace impossible." Kira sat down beside him. Her golden eyes held the curiosity of someone too young to know real fear. "The other veterans speak of you with great respect. They say you fought in the human conflicts." The old soldier's body went rigid. His 6 arms pressed tight against his sides. "They should not speak of such things." "Why?" Kira leaned forward. "Humans are our allies now. The war ended 20 cycles ago. What happened that still haunts you after so long?" Vex turned to face her. In his ancient eyes, she saw something she had never seen in any warrior before. She saw genuine terror. "You want to know about humans?" His voice dropped to a whisper. "Then listen carefully. And pray you never have to learn these lessons yourself." The mission to Frozen Ridge. "It was my 32nd cycle of service," Vex began. "The Galactic Council assigned my regiment to secure a human colony on Nexar 4. The planet was mostly ice and rock. Worthless except for rare minerals the humans needed for their ships." He paused, lost in the memory. "We had 2,000 soldiers. The finest warriors from 7 species. Our weapons could level mountains. Our sensors could track a snow beetle from orbit. The humans had maybe 60 colonists. Farmers, miners, families. They had basic rifles and makeshift shelters." Kira frowned. "That sounds like a simple mission." "That is what we believed." Vex's scales rippled with remembered fear. "Command told us the humans would surrender within days. They had no military training. No heavy weapons. No hope of reinforcement. We surrounded their settlement and waited for them to accept reality. The first night of horror. The first 3 days passed without incident," Vex continued. "Our perimeter held perfectly. Patrols reported no contact. We settled into comfortable routines, confident in our overwhelming advantage." He closed his eyes. "Then came the 4th night. I commanded a forward observation post. 12 soldiers under my care. Good warriors with decades of combined experience. We had thermal sensors, motion detectors, and night vision equipment. The temperature outside was 40 degrees below freezing. Nothing could survive long in that cold without proper gear. We rotated watches every 4 hours. Standard protocol. At the midnight shift change, I went to check on my outer sentries. The first post was empty. No body. No blood. No signs of struggle. Just empty snow where a trained soldier had stood moments before." Kira's silver eyebrows rose. "He deserted?" "That was my first thought," Vex admitted. "Then I found the 2nd post empty. And the 3rd. And the 4th. For soldiers gone without a single alarm triggered. Without a single footprint in the fresh snow. Without a single sound that our equipment detected. The spreading fear. I reported the situation immediately. Command responded with disbelief. How could 4 soldiers vanish from a fortified position? They blamed equipment failure. They blamed poor discipline. They blamed me." Vex's arms trembled slightly. But then other units started reporting the same thing. All around our perimeter, soldiers were disappearing. Not dying. Not fleeing. Simply vanishing. By morning we had lost 47 warriors. Not one body was ever found. Commander Grell ordered tighter formations. Double watches. Constant patrols. We obeyed without question. We were disciplined soldiers facing an unknown threat. We would adapt and overcome. That night we lost 60 more. The voices in the snow. On the 6th night the voices began, Vex said, his voice barely audible. Whispers in the wind that called our names. Sounds that mimicked our communication frequencies. Messages that referenced personal information. Family members. Childhood fears. Secrets we had never told anyone. The humans knew us, he said. They had studied us. Learned our languages. Researched our cultures. They knew exactly what would break each species. For the Drothians, they whispered about our egg clutches back home. For the Valorians, they sang corrupted versions of sacred hymns. For the Krell, they made sounds that imitated dying hatchlings. Kira shuddered. That is psychological warfare. That is human warfare, Vex corrected. They did not need superior weapons. They did not need greater numbers. They had understanding. They knew that fear is the most powerful weapon in the galaxy. And they wielded it like masters. The breaking point. By the 10th night, soldiers refused to stand watch. Officers argued about retreat. Warriors who had faced death without flinching now jumped at shadows. The humans had not killed most of our missing soldiers. We later learned they had captured them, treated them well, and released them far from our position. But we did not know that then. We only knew that our brothers kept disappearing into the endless white silence. Commander Grell finally ordered an assault on the colony. Direct attack. End the uncertainty. But when our forces advanced, they found nothing. Empty buildings. Cold fires. The humans had evacuated during our confusion. They had slipped past 2,000 soldiers without leaving a trace. And on every wall of every building, they had left the same message written in our own language: we could have killed you all. We chose not to. Remember this mercy. The retreat. We left Nexar 3 days later, Vex concluded. Not defeated in battle. Defeated in spirit. Of 2,000 soldiers, less than 500 returned to active duty. The rest required psychological treatment. Some never recovered. Some still wake screaming in the night 40 cycles later. He looked at Kira with haunted eyes. I was one of them. I am one of them still. The young medic sat in stunned silence. Outside the window, stars burned cold and distant. You asked what makes humans terrifying, Vex said. It is not their strength. It is not their technology. It is their understanding. They study their enemies. They learn what makes each species afraid. And then they become that fear. They do not fight wars. They end them before they begin. A new voice spoke from the doorway. He speaks the truth. Both turned to see Commander Thresh standing in the entrance. The tall Meridian officer bore scars that rivaled Vex's own. Her 4 yellow eyes held the same haunted wisdom. But that is only half the story, she said, walking closer. Vex knows what it means to fight against humans. I know what it means to fight beside them. That knowledge is even more troubling. She sat down heavily. Let me tell you about the siege of Varys, 7. Then you will understand why humans are both the greatest threat and the greatest hope this galaxy has ever seen. When humans became shadows. Commander Thresh settled into her chair with the careful movements of someone whose body remembered too much pain. Her meridian physiology allowed her to see in 4 spectrums simultaneously, but sometimes she wished she could see less. Some images burned brighter in memory than they ever did in reality. Varys 7 was supposed to be a routine defense mission, she began. Hold a mountain pass for 72 hours while civilian transports evacuated the colony below. Simple mathematics. We had adequate forces, prepared positions, and clear objectives. Kira leaned forward, her data pad forgotten. Vex remained motionless, listening to a story he had heard before but needed to hear again. The Alliance forces. Our combined force numbered approximately 300 soldiers, Thresh continued. Meridians, Drothians, Krell, and a small human contingent of just 25 warriors. Captain Marcus led the humans. He was unremarkable in appearance. Average height. Quiet voice. He smiled often and spoke rarely. I dismissed him initially as a diplomatic gesture rather than a serious military asset. She paused, her 4 eyes distant. I was profoundly wrong. The enemy fleet arrived 18 hours early. Our intelligence had failed completely. Instead of facing a raiding party, we confronted an invasion force. 3,000 ground troops with air support and orbital bombardment capability. They destroyed our communications relay first, then our supply depot, then our heavy weapons emplacement. Within 2 hours, we went from defenders to survivors. The impossible situation. General Kor, our commanding officer, called an emergency meeting, Thresh said. The numbers were devastating. Outnumbered 10 to 1. No resupply possible. No reinforcements available. Our 72-hour mission had become a death sentence. Standard doctrine offered 2 options. Fight to honorable death or negotiate surrender terms. Kor was preparing the surrender communication when Captain Marcus spoke his first words of the entire deployment. What did he say? Kira asked. Thresh closed her eyes. He said, General, with respect, I have a third option. Give me command of defensive operations for the next 12 hours. If we are not winning by then, you can surrender with my blessing. Kor was insulted. A junior human officer requesting tactical command over a general? It violated every protocol. But something in Marcus's calm certainty made Kor hesitate. He asked what Marcus proposed to do. Marcus smiled that quiet smile and said, I propose to convince the enemy they have made a terrible mistake. The transformation begins. Kor gave permission out of desperation rather than faith, Thresh continued. What happened next changed how I understand warfare forever. Marcus gathered his 25 humans and spoke to them for exactly 4 minutes. I recorded it, though I did not understand its significance then. He told them, we are outnumbered. We are outgunned. We are trapped. This is exactly where we want to be. Now they are trapped in here with us. His humans laughed. They actually laughed. Then they scattered across our defensive position like predators smelling blood. Within 1 hour they had completely reorganized our defenses. They did not ask permission. They simply worked. Medical supplies became weapon components. Damaged vehicles became barricades. Communication equipment became sensor traps. Food synthesizers became chemical hazards. Nothing was wasted. Everything had purpose. The first enemy wave. The enemy attacked at nightfall, Thresh said. 300 soldiers advancing on our position with overwhelming firepower. Standard doctrine said we should concentrate defenses and prepare for a fighting retreat. Marcus had different plans. His humans had spent the afternoon creating something they called the maze. False positions. Misdirection. Traps that seemed like accidents. They had turned the mountain pass into a nightmare of confusion. The enemy entered expecting resistance. They found chaos instead. Explosions triggered from positions we had abandoned hours ago. Sounds echoed from empty caves suggesting reinforcements that did not exist. Their thermal imaging showed heat signatures that were actually chemical fires burning in specific patterns. In 3 hours of fighting, we eliminated over 200 enemy soldiers. We lost 11. The enemy retreated to regroup, convinced they faced a much larger force hiding superior technology. The cost of human warfare. But the victory came at a price, Thresh said quietly. I watched Marcus during those 3 hours. He never rested. Never ate. Never showed fear. But I saw something else in his eyes. Calculation. Every decision he made traded something for something else. Time for lives. Position for advantage. Rest for readiness. By dawn of the second day, his humans showed the strain. They moved slower. Their reactions dulled. But they refused to stop. When I suggested rotation for rest, Marcus shook his head. He said, Commander, my people are designed for this. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day for millions of years. Exhaustion is familiar. Desperation is comfortable. We do not break down under pressure. We break through. The final stand. The enemy launched their final assault on the third day, Thresh continued. They had learned from their failures. This time they brought everything. Air support. Heavy weapons. Coordinated infantry waves. They intended to simply overwhelm our position through sheer numbers. We had 97 soldiers remaining. The humans were down to 18. Ammunition was critically low. Medical supplies were exhausted. By every measurement, we should have been preparing final messages to our families. Instead, Marcus gathered everyone together. Humans and aliens alike. He looked at each of us individually. Then he spoke. He said, I know you are tired. I know you are hurt. I know some of you believe this is the end. You are wrong. This is the beginning. Today we show the galaxy what happens when different species stand together. Today we do not die. Today we make them remember why they should never have come here. The human way. What followed was 18 hours of constant fighting, Thresh said. The humans led every counterattack. They volunteered for every dangerous mission. When ammunition ran out, they used knives. When knives broke, they used rocks. When rocks were gone, they used their hands. I saw Captain Marcus take 3 wounds that would have killed any Meridian. He kept fighting. I saw a human private carry a wounded Drothian twice his size through enemy fire. I saw humans create weapons from wreckage, shelter from debris, and hope from nothing. When reinforcements finally arrived, they found the mountain pass still in our control. The enemy force was shattered. Over 2,000 of their soldiers lay dead or wounded. Their commanders had fled. Of our 300 defenders, 87 survived. Of the 25 humans, only 7 walked away. Captain Marcus was not among them. He died during the final hour, holding a position that allowed the evacuation of wounded soldiers. Understanding the truth, Thresh fell silent. The medical station seemed smaller now, its white walls pressing closer. You asked what makes humans terrifying, she finally said. Vex told you about their ability to become fear itself. I'm telling you about something more profound. Humans do not accept limits. They do not recognize impossible. When everything says they should fail, they simply refuse to fail. More than that, she added, they extend that refusal to everyone fighting beside them. When humans stand with you, their determination becomes contagious. Their creativity becomes shared. Their absolute refusal to surrender becomes yours. The enemy commander was captured during the final assault. Intelligence interrogated him for months. They asked why his forces retreated from a position they could have taken through attrition alone. His answer haunts me still. He said, "We were not fighting an enemy. We were fighting an idea. The idea that victory was already theirs. The idea that our numbers meant nothing. The idea that they could not lose because they had already decided not to. How do you kill an idea? You cannot. You can only run from it." The final lesson. Vex stirred, his old body shifting in the chair. The young one asked what makes humans terrifying. You have heard 2 answers. Fear and faith. Humans master both. They become the darkness their enemies fear, and they become the light their allies need. Kira sat in silence, processing everything she had heard. Outside the window, the gas giant Karath turned slowly in the eternal night. Somewhere in this vast galaxy, humans were working, laughing, living their ordinary lives. They looked so normal, so unremarkable, so utterly harmless. That was perhaps the most terrifying thing of all. You never saw the predator until it was already too late. You never recognized the hero until they were carrying you to safety. Humans hid their true nature behind gentle smiles and quiet voices. But when circumstances demanded, when impossible situations arose, when everything said surrender was the only option, humans remembered what they truly were. They were the species that conquered a hostile world through sheer stubborn refusal to die. They were the hunters who became the most dangerous predators their planet had ever seen. They were the survivors who turned every disadvantage into opportunity. And now they walked among the stars, teaching the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. I have one more question, Kira said softly. Both veterans looked at her. If humans are so dangerous, why did they choose peace? Why form alliances instead of empires? Why share their strength instead of using it to dominate? Vex and Thresh exchanged glances. It was the old Drothian who answered. Because, young one, that is the final secret about humans. They are as capable of mercy as they are of war. They choose peace because they have seen what happens when they choose otherwise. They offer alliance because they understand that cooperation builds more than conquest. They share their strength because they know that shared strength grows stronger. Humans could conquer this galaxy, Vex concluded. They could reduce every species to ash and rule over the ruins. They have the capacity. They have the will. But they choose not to. They choose to be partners instead of masters. They choose to defend instead of destroy. That choice, Thresh added, is what makes them truly remarkable. Not their capacity for war but their capacity for restraint. They hold the power of demons and choose to act like angels. Most of the time. The medical station continued its silent orbit. Somewhere in the darkness, a human nurse walked past the observation window, checking on sleeping patients. She hummed softly to herself, unaware of the conversation happening nearby. Just another human doing ordinary work. Just another member of the most terrifying species the galaxy had ever encountered, living peacefully among those who had once been enemies. Kira watched her pass and finally understood. The fear was not that humans might become monsters. The fear was not knowing which version you would face until it was already decided. And the hope? The hope was that they kept choosing the better path. The hope was that their mercy was as reliable as their wrath. The young medic returned to her duties with new wisdom in her golden eyes. She would never look at humans the same way again. None of them would. The end.